My name is Dorothy, and at 67 years old, I thought I had already seen the worst storms life could throw at me. I was wrong. For most of my adult life, I worked as a nurse in a small community hospital. Long nights on call, endless rounds of patients, and the kind of exhaustion only another nurse could understand. But it gave me purpose. I believed in caring for people, even when it cost me sleep and strength. When my husband Henry was alive, he used to say I had the biggest heart in the county. He passed 3 years ago, and with him went the quiet steadiness that had held our family together. We had two sons, Mark, the ambitious one who always wanted more, and Brian, the dreamer who never quite landed on his feet. Mark had gone on to marry Kelly, a woman as polished as a diamond ring and just as cold. Brian drifted between jobs, always with another excuse, always needing another handout. My granddaughter Anna, though, she was the light of my world. 22, sharp, determined, nothing like her father or uncle. She spent weekends with me, reading books on the porch swing, helping me tend the garden Henry planted. In her, I saw the only trace of hope for our family's future. The house I lived in wasn't just a building. Henry and I bought it 40 years ago, painted it with our own hands, filled it with memories. Every picture on the walls, every creak in the floorboards carried our story. After Henry's death, I clung to it like a lifeline. It was all I had left of him. I believed my sons understood that. I believed they would honor their father's memory, respect the sacrifices I had made. I believed, foolishly, that blood meant loyalty. But families don't always break with noise. Sometimes they crack slowly, quietly, until one day the ground splits open beneath your feet. I didn't know it yet, but mine was about to. My 67th birthday should have been a celebration. Anna had helped me bake a lemon cake the night before, and I set the dining room table with Henry's old china. For once, I let myself feel excited, my family under one roof, laughter filling the house I fought to keep alive. The guests arrived early. Brian slouched in with the faint smell of beer clinging to his jacket. Mark and Kelly swept in like royalty, Kelly's heels clicking across the hardwood, her perfume flooding the air. She kissed my cheek with a smile that never touched her eyes. "Happy birthday, Dorothy," she said smoothly, already scanning the room as though she owned it. Dinner passed in a blur of small talk. I tried to ignore Kelly's sighs when I asked Brian to say grace, or the way Mark avoided looking at me whenever I mentioned his father. I held on to the hope that when the cake came out, the evening would finally feel warm. But when the plates were cleared and everyone gathered around, Mark rose from his chair, clearing his throat. Kelly stood beside him, hand resting on his arm like she was steadying him for a performance. "Mom," Mark began, "we need to talk about the future, about your future." I frowned. "Can it wait until after the cake?" Kelly's laugh was sharp. "This is exactly the right time." She raised her glass, her voice slicing through the chatter. "We've decided it's best for everyone if you transition into assisted living. A lovely facility. We've already toured it. They'll take good care of you there." The room went still. My fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate. "Excuse me." Mark shifted uncomfortably but pressed on. "It's safer, Mom, and, we've already arranged the paperwork. The house will be transferred into our name so Kelly and I can manage it properly." It felt like the air was ripped from my lungs. My home, Henry's home, handed over without even asking me. Anna shot to her feet, her cheeks flushed with fury. "You can't do that. This is Grandma's house. How dare you?" Kelly's smile tightened. "Sweetheart, you're young. You don't understand. Your grandmother needs stability. She's not equipped to manage anymore." I rose slowly, my voice shaking but loud enough for everyone to hear. "This is my birthday, in my house, and you use it to announce you're throwing me out?" The guests averted their eyes. No one moved. Only Anna, standing beside me, her small fists clenched, dared to speak again. "They can't take this from you, Grandma. They can't." But in that moment, watching Mark avoid my gaze and Kelly beam like a queen, I realized they already thought they had. The silence after Kelly's announcement burned hotter than any fire. My pulse thudded in my ears as I stood, the room spinning just slightly around me. I fixed my eyes on my eldest son. "Mark," I said, my voice low but firm, "tell me this isn't true. Tell me you didn't sign away my home." He swallowed hard, his jaw tight. "Mom, it's for your own good. You'll be comfortable at the facility. They have nurses, activities." "Activities?" I snapped, cutting him off. "I was a nurse for 35 years. Do you think I need strangers to tuck me into bed while you and your wife take over everything your father and I built?" Kelly's smirk widened. "Dorothy, no one's taking anything from you. We're protecting you. This place is too much for you now. Honestly, it's selfish to cling to it when the rest of us could make better use of it." Uh, Gasps rippled from a few relatives at the table. My hands shook, not from weakness but from rage. "Selfish? I scrubbed these floors on my knees. I worked double shifts to pay for this roof. Henry and I sacrificed so you and Brian could have a future. And now you stand in my house, on my birthday, and call me selfish." Anna's voice rang out clear and fierce. "She's not selfish, she's your mother. You should be ashamed of yourselves." Kelly turned on her sharply. "Stay out of this, Anna. You're too young to understand family decisions." But Anna didn't back down. She crossed her arms, standing shoulder to shoulder with me. "No, I understand perfectly. You want her gone so you can take everything. You don't care about her at all." Mark slammed his palm against the table, silverware rattling. "Enough, both of you. This isn't a debate. The decision's made." I stared at him, my own son, my flesh and blood, who couldn't even meet my eyes. My heart cracked, but my voice hardened like steel. "If you go through with this, Mark, you're not just taking my house, you're burying whatever family you had left." The room went silent again. Kelly held her glass like a victor's crown. Mark's shoulders heaved with silent fury, and Anna gripped my arm, her whisper trembling in my ear. "They can't get away with this, Grandma. They just can't." I didn't answer her then, but inside a seed of resolve began to take root. The birthday night ended with guests slipping out in silence, avoiding my eyes as though I carried some shame. Kelly basked in the discomfort she had created, her arm looped through Mark's as if she had won a prize. Anna stayed behind to help me clear the dishes, her movements stiff with anger. 2 days later, I went to the bank to confirm what I already feared. The young teller clicked at her keyboard, then looked up at me with a practiced smile. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller, but this account shows a zero balance. It was closed last month." "Closed?" My voice wavered. "That can't be. My husband and I saved in that account for decades." She nodded politely. "The funds were transferred to a joint account under Mark and Kelly Miller. I can print the transaction record if you'd like." My stomach dropped. The paper in my hands blurred as tears stung my eyes. Everything Henry and I had scraped together, gone with the flick of a pen. That evening, I confronted Brian, hoping for at least one ally. He was sprawled on Helen's old couch, smelling of beer, scrolling on his phone. "Brian, did you know about the bank account? Did your brother tell you?" He barely looked up. "Yeah, Kelly said it was safer in their hands, and they gave me a little advance from it so I could pay off my truck loan." My heart twisted. "So you sold me out for a truck?" He shrugged, eyes back on his screen. "Better than watching you wasted on bills and medicine? At least this way, it's being put to use." The betrayal was complete. Both my sons, one by greed, the other by laziness, had chosen Kelly over me. The walls of my house felt colder, the photographs of Henry and me mocking reminders of everything I had lost. That night, as I sat alone at the kitchen table, Anna slipped into the chair beside me. She took my hand, her grip steady. "Grandma, they've taken your money and your house, but they haven't taken you. We'll find a way." I wanted to believe her, but in that moment, all I felt was the crushing weight of abandonment, heavier than any burden I had carried in my nursing days. Still, deep inside, the ember that had sparked at the birthday table glowed a little brighter. The day came faster than I imagined. Kelly didn't waste time once the paperwork was filed. A notice arrived, cold, official, stamped with ink. I had 30 days to vacate the house. My house. Mark brought the envelope himself, leaving it on the kitchen counter without meeting my eyes. "It's better this way, Mom. Less stress for you. You'll have nurses around the clock." "Less stress?" I whispered. Watching my own son hand me an eviction notice, does that look like less stress to you? He opened his mouth, but no words came. He turned, and in that silence, I heard everything he was too much a coward to say. That night, I sat alone in the living room, the walls bare where Kelly had already started removing pictures. The grandfather clock ticked like a cruel reminder that time was running out. I looked at Henry's portrait on the mantel, my fingers trembling as I traced the glass. I promised you I'd keep this family together, I whispered, tears spilling down my cheeks, but they've ripped it apart. When the movers came, hired by Kelly, not me, I stood in the yard as strangers carried out my furniture. The armchair Henry used to read in, the quilt I had sewn during our first winter, the dining table where birthdays and Christmases had been celebrated. Each piece leaving felt like another bone pulled from my body. Brian didn't even show up. Mark stood off to the side, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the driveway. Kelly barked orders like she was directing a show, and Anna, my sweet Anna, sobbed openly, clinging to me, begging them to stop. "Grandma, this isn't fair. They can't do this to you." I stroked her hair, though my own strength was crumbling. Sometimes, sweetheart, fairness has nothing to do with it. When the last box was gone, I stood in the empty doorway. The echoes of 40 years of love and sacrifice haunted the silence. Kelly's voice rang sharp behind me. "Don't forget anything, we've changed the locks tomorrow." I walked away, each step heavier than the last, the weight of betrayal pressing me down. For the first time in my life, I truly felt like an orphan, motherless, husbandless, and now sonless too. That night, lying on a borrowed bed in Anna's small apartment, I stared at the ceiling until dawn. Grief hollowed me out until nothing was left but a single thought. Sharp and clear. They had taken everything, or so they thought. A week passed in a blur of boxes and borrowed space. Anna did her best to keep me busy, cooking simple meals, dragging me out for short walks, but the weight in my chest wouldn't lift. Nights were the worst. I'd lie awake on her couch, hearing every creak of the building, every distant siren replaying the moment Kelly had shoved me out of my own doorway. One morning, Anna set a cardboard box in front of me. "Grandma," she said softly, "this was in the attic. I found it behind the old trunks before they locked the house." The box was worn, its edges frayed. My heart skipped when I saw Henry's handwriting scrawled across the top. "Important. Keep safe." With trembling hands, I opened it. Inside lay papers yellowed with age, a few sealed envelopes, and, at the bottom, a neatly folded legal document. My breath caught as I unfolded it. It was Henry's will, the original, the one we had signed together at the lawyer's office years ago. My eyes scanned the pages until I found the line that made me sit up straight. "In the event that either son shall attempt to seize assets through fraudulent or coercive means, all property and financial holdings shall pass directly to my granddaughter, Anna Miller." Anna leaned over my shoulder. "Grandma, does this mean what I think it means?" Tears welled in my eyes, but this time they weren't from grief. "It means your grandfather knew. He knew our boys could turn greedy. He wanted to protect us." For the first time in months, fire surged through me. Not the fire of rage, but of purpose. They thought they had stripped me bare, left me with nothing. But Henry had built a shield we hadn't even realized we had. I closed the will carefully, my hands steady now. "They wanted me gone, Anna, but Henry left us the key to fight back. And that's exactly what we're going to do." Anna squeezed my hand, her eyes blazing. "Then let's make them pay." The darkness that had smothered me began to crack, light seeping through. I wasn't just Dorothy, the discarded widow. I was Henry's wife, Anna's grandmother, and a woman with a weapon powerful enough to bring down everything Kelly thought she controlled. For the first time since losing my home, I allowed myself a smile. The battle hadn't ended. It was only beginning. The following Monday, Anna and I walked into Carter and Field's law offices with Henry's will clutched to my chest. The receptionist tried to hide her surprise when I asked for a fraud consultation. Within minutes, we were seated across from a gray-haired attorney named Mr. Jennings, a man with the calm eyes of someone who'd seen every trick in the book. I laid the will on his desk. "My husband drew this up years ago. My sons and daughter-in-law forced me out of my home and drained my accounts, but Henry protected me. I want to know if I can fight." Jennings adjusted his glasses and read in silence. After a long moment, he looked up. Mrs. Miller, this clause is ironclad. If we prove that Mark and Brian conspired with Kelly to seize your property unlawfully, every asset transfers directly to Anna here. Anna straightened in her chair, her young face fierce. Then let's prove it. The attorney nodded slowly. We'll need evidence, hard evidence, bank transfers, forged signatures, any recorded conversations. Do you have anything that ties them to coercion or fraud? I exchanged a glance with Anna, then reached into my purse. I set down the transaction printouts from the bank, the ones showing my savings swept into Mark and Kelly's account. Jennings smiled faintly. That's a start. Anna leaned forward. What about recording them? If we can catch Dad admitting what he did. Jennings raised a hand. Be careful. But yes, in this state, one-party consent applies. If you record a conversation you're part of, it's admissible. That night, Anna and I sat at her small kitchen table with a notepad between us. We drafted the steps like generals planning a war. Document trail, keep copies of every bank record, notice, and receipt. Recordings. Anna would talk to her father, steering him toward admitting what he signed and why. Corporate angle check if Kelly funneled money into her real estate company. If so, buy in quietly with what little savings I still had, backed by Henry's emergency bonds. Timing reveal everything at once in front of witnesses so no one could deny it. Anna tapped the page with her pen. Grandma, when we do this, we don't just take back what's ours. We make sure they can never hurt you again. I looked at her, pride swelling in my chest. No, sweetheart, we make sure they learn that the woman they thought they could throw away still knows how to fight. And as I closed the notebook that night, I felt the old Dorothy returning, the nurse who had faced death in hospital corridors, the wife who had built a life from nothing, the mother who had sacrificed too much. This time, I wouldn't sacrifice. This time, I would strike. 2 weeks later, I made my first move. Quiet, calculated. I went back to the bank, not to plead, but to withdraw Henry's emergency bonds, the ones Kelly didn't know existed. I had tucked them away decades ago, meant for the kind of storm we never thought would come. Well, the storm had arrived, and I was done waiting for rescue. With Anna at my side, I signed the forms and walked out with a cashier's check big enough to shift the ground under Kelly's feet. Our next stop was the county records office. Anna filmed discreetly on her phone as I requested certified copies of every property transfer Mark and Kelly had filed. The clerk handed me a stack of documents, and there it was again. My signature crooked and clumsy, a forgery anyone could see at a glance. I tucked the papers into my folder like ammunition. But the real strike came 3 days later. Through Mr. Jennings's connections, I found out Kelly's real estate firm was quietly selling shares to cover a mountain of hidden debt. She had been bragging about expansions at every family dinner. But the truth was uglier. She was desperate for cash. That night, in Jennings's office, I signed the paperwork. By morning, I was a silent but significant shareholder in her company. Kelly didn't know it yet, but I had bought my way into her kingdom, brick by brick. When the confirmation email pinged on my phone, I showed it to Anna. She let out a laugh so sharp it startled me. Grandma, you just became her boss. I smiled, the first genuine smile in months. Not yet, sweetheart, but soon. Later that evening, Daniel called Anna's phone. His voice was weary, almost pleading. Anna, your grandmother needs to stop stirring trouble. Kelly says she might press charges if this continues. Anna looked at me, waiting. I took the phone and answered, my voice steady as stone. Tell Kelly this. The trouble hasn't even started. And with that, I ended the call. The first shot had been fired. I waited for the perfect moment. Kelly and Mark announced a family dinner at my old house, my house. They said it was to smooth things over. I knew better. They wanted to parade their victory. I walked in with Anna and Mr. Jennings at my side. Kelly was radiant in red silk, her glass of wine raised like she was christening a ship. Mark stood behind her, stiff and uneasy. Brian lounged in the corner, already half drunk. Kelly's voice dripped with sweetness. Dorothy, how kind of you to come. I hope you've made peace with the changes. Really, the home feels fresher already. I set my folder on the table. Funny you mentioned changes, I brought some of my own. Her smile faltered. I pulled out the certified deed and laid it flat. This is the original title Henry and I signed, with a survivorship clause. Legally, this house belongs to me, and no forged signature can change that. Mark's head snapped up. Forged? I slid the county certified report across the table. Your wife filed this with my name scrawled like a child's homework. A handwriting expert already confirmed it isn't mine. The room went still. Kelly laughed too loudly. This is absurd. Anyone can make papers look official. I lifted my phone, pressed play. Mark's own voice filled the room, recorded from Anna's conversation with him. We had to sign it, Anna. It was the only way to get Mom out. Kelly said she'd handle the details. Brian choked on his drink. Mark's face drained of color. Anna stood tall beside me, her young voice clear. You lied, you stole, and you broke your own mother's heart. Kelly slammed her glass down, wine spilling across the tablecloth. You think a couple of papers and a recording will undo everything? Please, you're nothing but a bitter old woman clinging to a crumbling past. I leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Then let me add one more thing. I placed the shareholder certificate on the table. As of last week, I am the largest investor in your company, which means every reckless deal you've made is under my review. Every decision you thought you controlled is now mine. The silence broke into whispers from the relatives present. Kelly's face twisted, her mask cracking under the weight of the truth. Anna squeezed my arm. You did it, Grandma. But this wasn't the end. It was only the first crack in Kelly's empire. Kelly's composure snapped like glass under a hammer. She shot to her feet, the chair screeching across the hardwood. You think you can embarrass me in my own home? She spat, though her voice wavered. You're nothing but a washed-up old woman waving papers you barely understand. My home, I corrected, my voice low but carrying through the room. Every board, every nail, every memory mine, and as of tonight, the law agrees. Her cheeks flushed crimson. Mark, say something. Tell her she has no right. Mark rubbed the back of his neck, eyes glued to the documents on the table. Kelly, this looks bad. Bad? She rounded on him. You weak little man, I've done everything to keep this family standing. Without me, you'd still be running errands for your mother? Gasps rippled around the table. Brian muttered a curse under his breath. Anna stepped forward, her hands clenched at her sides. You don't get to talk to my grandmother that way, she snapped. You've lied, stolen, and humiliated her, and now you're showing everyone who you really are. Kelly whirled on Anna, venom dripping from her words. You ungrateful brat. You've always been against me. Do you think siding with her will get you anything? She'll be gone soon, and you'll have nothing. I moved between them, my voice sharp as a blade. Enough. You don't threaten my granddaughter. Kelly sneered, but I saw fear flicker in her eyes. She turned back to Mark, grasping at him like a lifeline. Are you really going to let her tear us apart, after everything I've done for you? Mark's shoulders slumped. He finally looked at me, then at Anna, then at the mess of evidence spread across the table. His lips parted, but the words caught in his throat. Kelly saw it, the hesitation, the crack in her control. She hissed under her breath, "Don't you dare!" But it was too late. The balance of power was shifting. Everyone in the room could feel it, and I knew the next move would decide everything. Mark's hand shook as he picked up the forged deed. His eyes lingered on the jagged signature, then flicked to the audio recording still playing softly from my phone. His voice, his own voice, echoed back at him. It was the only way to get Mom out. He set the paper down slowly. Kelly, tell me this isn't true. Kelly let out a bitter laugh. Really, Mark? After everything we've built, after all the sacrifices I made for you, you're going to believe her? An old woman and a naive girl? Anna's voice cut through the room. She's your mother, Dad, and I'm your daughter. If that's not enough to make you listen, then what is? Mark's jaw tightened. He looked at me, really looked, like a man finally waking from a long sleep. For a moment, I saw the boy I'd raised, the boy who used to carry groceries for me without being asked. His lips parted, his voice low. Mom, I didn't know it would go this far. Kelly slammed her hand on the table. Don't be pathetic. We had no choice. You think she would have just handed it all over? No, she was never going to let us have control. I did what needed to be done. The room froze. Relatives who had sat silent all evening whispered behind their hands. Brian muttered something about going too far and shifted uneasily in his chair. Mark stared at his wife, horror dawning on his face. So you admit it. You forged her name. Kelly's eyes widened. No, She caught herself too late. The crack had become a fracture. I leaned forward, my voice steady. You see it now, don't you, Mark? She never wanted a family. She wanted ownership. And you gave it to her. Kelly's mask finally shattered. Her words came out shrill, desperate. If you turn on me now, you'll lose everything. Do you hear me, Mark? Everything. But her threats no longer landed. Mark pushed back his chair, his face pale but resolute. No, Kelly, I already lost everything when I betrayed my mother. The room erupted in murmurs. Kelly's control was gone, her grip slipping like sand through clenched fists. And for the first time since Henry's death, I felt the tide turn fully in my favor. Kelly's eyes darted around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to back her. But the silence was suffocating. Even Brian sat slumped in his chair, muttering into his drink, unwilling to come to her rescue. I stood slowly, gathering the folder of evidence in my hands. My voice carried calm authority, the kind that left no room for doubt. Kelly, this ends tonight. You forged my name. You stole my savings. You tried to erase me from my own life. But I'm still standing. And now I hold the deed, the recordings, and your company's shares. You've lost. Her face twisted, rage bubbling to the surface. You can't prove any of this in court. I placed the notarized affidavit from Jennings's office on the table with a firm tap. Already filed. The district attorney's office has copies of everything. By next week, you won't just be out of this house. You'll be under investigation. Kelly's parents shifted uncomfortably, shame written across their faces. Whispers rippled through the relatives like wildfire. Kelly's empire was crumbling right there before her audience. Anna stepped forward, her voice sharp. Grandma doesn't need to fight you alone. She has me, and she has the truth. You'll never break her again. Mark's eyes brimmed with tears as he finally said the words I had been waiting for. Mom, I'm sorry. I nodded, not ready to forgive, but ready to acknowledge the moment. Then I turned back to Kelly. Get out, tonight. Leave this house and never set foot in it again. She stared at me, trembling, but she saw it. The resolve in my eyes, the strength of the evidence stacked against her, the family turning away from her poison. She grabbed her purse, her heels clicking furiously against the floor, and slammed the door behind her. The echo of that door closing felt like the final nail sealing her downfall. I exhaled slowly, my shoulders finally free of the weight I had carried for months. I looked at Anna, her hand slipping into mine, steady and warm. We did it, she whispered. No, I corrected softly. We survived them. And we took back what was ours. The battle was over. The house was mine. My dignity was intact, and the woman they thought they could erase had written the ending herself. The days after Kelly stormed out felt unreal. For the first time in months, I could walk through my own front door without fear. The walls no longer echoed with her voice. The house, my house, was quiet again, peaceful in a way I hadn't thought possible. Anna unpacked her things into the guest room upstairs. Every morning she joined me on the porch swing with a mug of coffee, the same swing where Henry and I had once dreamed of growing old together. I saw his promise alive in her eyes, that this home and our family would endure. Mark came often, humbled, carrying bags of groceries or repairing things around the house. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He knew it wasn't his to demand, but he showed up day after day. That was a start. Brian drifted further away, unwilling to face what he had done. I let him go. Some bridges once burned aren't worth rebuilding. I reclaimed my home, my savings, and my dignity. But more than that, I reclaimed my voice. They had tried to write me out of the story of my own life. Instead, I had written the ending myself. Now, as I sit here with Anna's laughter drifting from the kitchen, I know one truth. They thought I was finished, but I was only getting started. If you've listened this far, thank you. Tell me in the comments, what would you have done in my place? And don't forget to subscribe to Revenge Stories with